Well, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know how the world's premier law enforcement agency managed to lose 5 months worth of text. And what's also troubling is in the text we do have, they're discussing how to avoid text being captured and secured. So what's missing is important, but also what's there is important. It is manifest bias, not just against Trump, but against his kids, against his business interests. There's a text where they hope the Trump hotel fails. That is a level of bias that you rarely see and you never see from law enforcement officers. What's also troubling to me is this text that Johnny Ratcliffe found last night about this secret society. Now, I have no clue what that means because that was not the phraseology I used, but it's the day after the election. And it's the same two people that were discussing a little bit later in the text the damage they had done with the Clinton investigation and how they could, quote, fix it and make it right.
What's out there? Today is Tuesday, April 24th, 2018. I'm Papa Bear, and this is What's Out There. Apparently, there's a lot of stuff going on. Of course, you can tell from my lead-in here that there's a lot going on with the government now that, obviously we're not privy to. Okay. There are things that have been kind of taken away from us as far as things that we're supposed to know. I mean, we as people, we should know that what our government is up to. We should know exactly what's going on. I mean, after all, they're supposed to be servants of the people, okay? The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, the Office of Intelligence and Analysis, Right-Wing Extremism Report, dated March 9th, with Supplementary Domestic Extremism Lexicon, April 09, classifies individuals as extremists if they identify or are identified with one or more of the following criteria, among many others, each of which is described as violent. Okay? These would be 1. Military veterans who have fought in foreign wars and are disgruntled about the takeover of the U.S. See Operation Vigilant Eagle. Now, there are several other ones here, like the Patriot Movement, anti-abortion rights, animal rights, environmental, single-issue things, opponents of open border policies, alternative media, like guys like me, right? Militia, members who oppose most federal and state laws, regulations, and authority, particularly firearms laws and regulations. The tax resistance movement, okay, anti-war individuals and groups, okay. But what got me, what made me think about this was when it said, who have fought in foreign wars and are disgruntled, in quotes, disgruntled, about the takeover of the U.S. And this is what got my interest. And it's specified here, see Operation Vigilant Eagle. So I decided I was going to go ahead and look up Operation Vigilant Eagle. And WikiLeaks or Wikipedia has very little on it. So I went to an article from the Rutherford Institute. This is by a man named John Whitehead. And he did quite an article on this. It's a long article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to grab some highlights from it. Just in time for Memorial Day. This came out on May 20th of 2013 is when he wrote this. So this is about 8 years ago. About 5 years ago. Just in time for Memorial Day, we're being treated to a generous serving of praise and grandstanding by politicians, corporations, and others with similarly self-serving motives, eager to go on record as being pro-military. Patriotic platitudes aside, however, America has done a deplorable job of caring for her veterans. We erect monuments for those who die while serving in the military, yet for those who return home, there's little honor to be found. Despite the fact that the U.S. boasts more than 23 million veterans who have served in World War II through Korea, Vietnam, the Gulf War, Iraq, and Afghanistan, the plight of veterans today, while often overlooked, is common knowledge. Impoverished, unemployed, lacking any decent health benefits, homeless, traumatized mentally and physically, struggling with depression, thoughts of suicide, marital stress. Making matters worse, thanks to Operation Vigilant Eagle, a program launched by the Department of Homeland Security in 2009, almost 10 years now, military veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan are also being characterized as extremists and potential domestic terrorist threats because they may be disgruntled, disillusioned, or suffering from the psychological effects of war. They left something out there. As a result, these servicemen and women, many of whom are decorated, are finding themselves under surveillance, threatened with incarceration or involuntary commitment, or arrested, all for daring to voice their concerns about the alarming state of our union and the erosion of our freedoms. I think the memo didn't make it out. Something didn't make it about the takeover of the U.S., okay? An important point to consider, however, is that the government is not merely targeting individuals who are voicing their discontent so much as it's locking up individuals trained in military warfare who are voicing feelings of discontent. Under the guise of mental health treatment, and with the complicity of government psychiatrists and law enforcement officials, these veterans are increasingly being portrayed as ticking time bombs in need of intervention. In 2012, for instance, the Justice Department launched a pilot program aimed at training SWAT teams to deal with confrontations involving highly trained and often heavily armed combat veterans. In the 4 years since the start of Operation Vigilant Eagle, the government has steadily ramped up its campaign to silence dissidents, especially those with military backgrounds. Coupled with the DHS dual reports on right-wing and left-wing extremism, which broadly define extremists as individuals and groups that are mainly anti-government, rejecting federal authority in favor of a state or local authority, or rejecting government authority entirely. These tactics have boded ill for anyone seen as opposing the government. One particularly troubling mental health label being applied to veterans and others who challenge the status quo is oppositional defiance disorder, or ODD. As journalist Anthony Martin explains, an ODD diagnosis denotes that the person exhibits symptoms such as the questioning of authority, the refusal to follow directions, stubbornness, the unwillingness to go along with the crowd, and the practice of disobeying or ignoring orders. Persons may also receive such a label if they are considered free thinkers, nonconformists, or individuals who are suspicious of large centralized government. At one time, the accepted protocol among mental health professionals was to reserve the diagnosis of oppositional defiance disorder for children or adolescents who exhibited uncontrollable defiance toward their parents and teachers. The case of 26-year-old decorated Marine Brandon Robb, who was targeted because of his Facebook posts, interrogated by government against his views on government corruption, arrested with no warning, labeled mentally ill for subscribing to so-called conspiratorial views about government, detained against his will in a psych ward for standing by his views, and isolated from his family and friends and attorneys, is a prime example of the government's war on veterans. Robb's case exposes the seedy underbelly of a governmental system that is targeting Americans, especially military veterans, for expressing their discontent over America's rapid transition to a police state. Now, this guy put it, their discontent over America's rapid transition to a police state. And the other one said, disgruntled about the U.S. takeover. Okay, see, there's a difference here. Also, if people remember, there was a man, I'm going to have to dig up his name here. He was actually Bill Cooper. And Bill Cooper is no longer with us, but he did tell us a little bit about this deep state thing that we're kind of experiencing now. Okay, and I have an audio here that I recorded, and only lasts a couple of minutes. I'm going to go ahead and play it and give you an idea of what he was observing back then.
Their whole purpose throughout history has been to teach a small number of people how to become adept at controlling everyone else. Their goal is to destroy all existing religions save theirs, all existing governments save theirs, and shackle the mob in a system of eternal oppressive debt chained to a computer for the rest of their life, in a propagandized world to make them believe that they are happy in this system. Now, do you think they're succeeding? Haven't I described to you just now exactly what is going on in the world today? Yes, they're succeeding. They're succeeding because the American people don't understand their enemy. They don't even know what's happening. There's a method to their madness. There's really not much method to yours, because you're operating from a place of ignorance. And until you change that, you're going to be bumbling around, bumping into each other, saying and doing the wrong things, not understanding the nature of your enemy. And if you don't understand the nature of your enemy and the weapons they use, you cannot fight that enemy. You can't fight the battle. You shouldn't even be on the battlefield. That's why you're losing the war. And don't tell me you're not, because I'm in a place of great knowledge about who's winning and who's losing this war. And I can assure you, you're losing the war. This country was founded by dangerous men. Amen. And the moment the people in this country cease to be dangerous men, it's going to be the day we cease to have a country. And I'm going to tell you right now, unless we can be successful in creating a real free press where the American people get different viewpoints other than those expressed in the establishment-controlled media, there's going to be a civil war in this country, and it's going to come soon. The only thing that can stop it is by waking up vast amounts of sleeping people. Sheeple is what they are. They are following the Judas goat right into the shearing pens, and from there they will go to the slaughter, and they will not know that anything is wrong until they smell the blood of the sheeple in front of them.
And we need to see, the thing is, another one of those criteria was free thinkers, people who are actually capable of critical thought, who can apply themselves, who apply their knowledge, applied knowledge, and little things that we take for granted that we believe to be true may not. If you think about this, I asked a question yesterday in Facebook. Yes, I have a Facebook account because, Facebook is collecting data, but so is Google and everybody else. But you're not going to get away from it. But anyway, my Facebook post, this is where I get my news feeds. And this is because I've been there for so long, I just, it's out of habit now. But anyway, information, things that we need to know. And the question I asked was, are you proud to be an American? If so, which America? North America, South America, or Central America? And we don't critically think the term America. We think, oh yeah, this is America, this is America. Well, what about Brazil? It's in South America. What about Canada, which is in North America? What about Mexico, which is also in North America? Okay, so when Mexicans say they are Americans, they're not wrong. They're not wrong at all. see, a state is basically its own individual country. If you wonder why your state has a constitution, that is why. France is a state. Greece is a state. Israel, Britain, they're all states, okay? You might call them nation states, if you will. Well, each individual state we have here in these United States, or the Union of States, is its own nation state, which is why it has its own constitution. The only reason why we are called United States is because we use the same currency. We are a union of states, and we go by the laws of a central government, which is located in Washington, D.C., which is, according to the Organic Act, the United States, which is the 10 square miles in Washington, D.C. So what they've done is they've gone ahead and extended their territory, or expanded their territory, to include commercial entities, commerce. Everything is, all crimes are commercial in nature. So once you have your business established, everything runs in commerce and becomes divisions of. And this is where the United States comes in. Now, Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia, is its own nation state. And we don't call it a state because it's not one of the 50. It's all by itself. It's the District of Columbia. It's a district of what? Columbia. Well, where's Columbia? Columbia is a nickname for this country based on its founder, its supposed founder, Christopher Columbus. And if you notice with Columbia Pictures, you'll see a Statue of Liberty with Columbia Pictures. It all has to do based with what they call the land called Columbia. And Washington, D.C., or the United States, is a district of Columbia. So now, are we United States? Yes, we are. Are we the United States? Probably not. I'm not a free thinker. I'm a logical thinker, and I try to put things into terms that people can basically understand. Okay. If you're in a state, New York, Massachusetts, Florida, California, who cares, okay? If you're in a state, you're in your own nation state. It's outside of Washington, D.C., and it does not include and is not within the United States. But I'm not allowed to say this stuff because of the takeover of the United States. But then again, the takeover has been stopped. And it was stopped when the man named Trump was elected into office. The thing is, it's like chopping the head off a chicken, okay? You chop the head off the chicken, and it's going to keep running. And it's going to take a little while for the chicken to fall. So that's what's happened, basically. The head's been cut off the chicken. The chicken's running. Oh, and keep your eye on the sealed indictments and the unsealed indictments and such. There's a lot of stuff going down at this point in time. And a lot of politicians and celebrities and so on are wrapped up in a child trafficking, human trafficking scheme, pedophilia. It's disgusting to talk about, and people flip my lid when I say something about it. But it needs to be talked about. We need to talk about it because it's a real thing, and it's bigger than we want to imagine. And that's the problem. We don't want to believe that it's a big problem. Most of the things that we encounter and we say, well, no, I don't want to believe that. I refuse to believe that. I refuse. And you can't. You have to be aware that there are things going on out there that may not meet with your approval, but it's not about your approval or my approval. And also remember, there was a 3% who actually engaged in the Civil War, okay? This is where the 3%ers come from. Everybody else was just bystanders. The thing is, you've got three kinds of people. People who make things happen, people who watch things happen, and people wonder what happened. And we're going to have a lot of people who are going to sitting back saying, what happened? And right now, they're sitting back. Even the ones that are most aware are asking themselves, what's happening? What's going on? And they haven't even seen the overthrow of their government for the past 8 years, or the 8 years prior to President Trump. And when he said, make America great again and take this country back, he was right. And were we ever a good country, a great country? Yes, we were. And when it comes to the Constitution, should we have a constitutional convention? No, we shouldn't. The reason why everybody wants a constitutional convention is because no one goes by the Constitution that we have now. Nobody seems to want to abide by it. Everybody wants to just run off and do their own thing. And I think that this country, the way it was intended to be run on its original founding, is that we have unalienable rights. These are God-given rights, according to the Bill of Rights. Your Bill of Rights is the first 10 amendments of the Constitution anyway. But we have unalienable rights. These are inherent rights. Rights that are God-given. They're not given to us by any man. Okay? You can't take them away. You can't give them away. They're inherent. You'll always have them. And this is what a lot of people don't understand. They believe that for some reason the Constitution gives you rights. The Constitution doesn't give you any rights. And when it comes to the Second Amendment, as far as gun rights go, Mr. Trump knows that he's not going to mess with the Second Amendment. They're not going to take guns. It's not going to happen. He knows a lot of people and a lot of generals, as you can tell. He's been in the right position. He is in the right position now. He has a lot of private security. And Jared Kushner also has private security. You need private security so that what happened to Kennedy, remember the Kennedy files got opened again, okay, after 50 years of being stale? This is so this doesn't happen. When you rely too much on the government, when you put your life in their hands, then you're trusting. You are very trusting, especially if you do something that they don't approve of. Okay, so you want to put your life in the hands of people you trust. You wouldn't put your life in the hands of strangers where they all say, hey, this is going to be fine. You know, it's going to be great. We'll take care of you. Just relax. Everything is beautiful. Isn't that what happened to Hitler? Hitler kind of went through the same thing. And another thing we're going through here is this AI revolution. And AI and surveillance, 24/7 surveillance, facial recognition on the streets and things like that. If you're using facial recognition, God love you. You know, I mean, there are a lot of naive people out there. It's okay. Maybe I'm pretty naive myself, believing that, you know, my face isn't out there or whatever. I know my face is out there, but they've been here, they've knocked on my door. They came here to see what I was up to, I guess, because I'm one of those veterans. I'm a veteran. I served during peacetime. I didn't serve in wartime, but I am a veteran. And I do believe in the Constitution, and I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution. And now I'm an enemy if I do the very thing that I swore an oath to uphold. And the people that you're arguing with in court, they're the same way. They swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, but they're not. They have no clue. And they're bowling you over and you're liking it. You're not liking it. You're not liking it at all. But you're going along with it because you feel intimidated. There's the fear factor. Everybody falls for the fear factor. And you have to get past it. To get through this, first of all, I have to let you know, this is big. This is bigger than you or me. This is good and evil. This is what it comes down to. It comes down to good and evil. I can sit back and complain about it all day, but there's nothing that I am going to change by complaining. And there's nothing anybody's going to change by complaining. We need to act. And we need to do it, as I've said before, on an individual level. We need to stand firm. We need to be calm and polite. But we need to stand firm. We don't need to fight. It's not what it's about. You can't fight evil with evil. You have to kill them with kindness. And you have to lay all your facts out, knowing that you are right with your information. Everything you have is all laid out, and it's there. You're not wrong. As long as there is no criminal intent, it's not a crime. When anything that you do, if there's no criminal intent, if it doesn't harm anyone else, if it doesn't interfere with anyone else's rights, then it's not a crime. It has nothing to do with anybody else. And outside, if it doesn't have anything to do with anybody else and no one was harmed, they have no jurisdiction. And this is the basic, the very first thing a lawyer would tell you when he goes into court. The very first thing he does in the court is he challenges jurisdiction. It's the very first thing. Once you get past the jurisdiction, then you can move from there. But usually you'll find that once you've attached jurisdiction to it, if it's a traffic infraction or something like that, it just goes away. It's gone. There's nothing they can do. And now, because of the new administration we've had, that's been in here just over a year, I believe they got the memo. I think they're starting to get it back now. Anyway, I'm Papa Bear. Today is April 24th, 2018, Tuesday. We'll be right back.
Let me assure you that our priority will remain to ensure stability and security.
In order to ensure the security and continuing stability, security
for Canadians.
Galactic Empire!
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
Attention L&M Radio Network listeners. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi available, you can still listen to every minute of the L&M Radio Network by calling 605-562-4203? No smartphone app or internet needed. Saves your data plan and no extra cost if you have unlimited minutes. Call 605-562-4203 to listen to the L&M Radio Network on any phone, anytime, anywhere.
Brothers at Arms is not about being militant, though there is a time and place where that is necessary. Brothers at Arms is not about arguing, though there are times where things may get heated. Brothers at Arms is not about who is right or wrong. There are many sides to each issue. Brothers at Arms is about exploring those sides, about dealing with the issues facing us today, about coming together and, through opposing views, understanding the deeper truths that are in the middle. Join Ira Robinson and Joe Long each Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on LateNightInTheMidlands.com as these Brothers at Arms discuss what you need to know. Brothers at Arms, it's about time. Have you been looking for answers? Have you been seeking the truth but can't seem to find it? Late Night in the Midlands has the answers for you. Whether you are interested in the paranormal, aliens and UFOs, alternative health information, or just a little hope and inspiration, we have a show for you. Late Night in the Midlands, The Secret Teachings, Open Eyes, Red Pill Reality Show, Brothers at Arms, and many more shows. All here on the L&M Network for you to listen to at any time that you want. Everything is free to listen to, and though it is not required, we are listener supported, and all donations are deeply appreciated. You will not find shows like these in the mainstream media. Go to LateNightInTheMidlands.com to listen. The L&M Network, where the truth has no fear.
This is TJ Sanfilippo, host of Navigating the River Styx. Join us each and every Thursday night at midnight here on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Together, we will traverse the forbidden waters of the paranormal, the occult, our hidden history, conspiracies, and things that dwell in the darkness and the deep. Come, grab a seat by the fire away from the night that is closing in. I have tales to tell you. When the clock strikes 12, I invite you to join us here on Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network. Until then, stay safe.
The L&M Radio Network and Late Night in the Midlands depends on you, the listener. Without you, there would be no us. So help us continue to bring you the best guests with the best information and subscribe today. Information on becoming an L&M subscriber can be found at the top of LateNightInTheMidlands.com. Just click the About Subscriptions tab and become part of the family while helping the truth stay alive. And while you're at it, maybe subscriptions aren't for you. A one-time donation helps as well. Click that donate button on the right side of LateNightInTheMidlands.com and help us help you.
Music by Ben Sound at bensound.com. Had to put the plug in there. We've got to do that for Benny. Also, we are at lnmradionetwork.com and latenightinthemidlands.com. There's a chat and listen button over there. Also, if you like what I do and you'd like to support my work, you can donate to me at abcleaningmain@gmail.com by way of PayPal. Or if you're at the YouTube site, which is What's Out There, click that like button if you would please. Like it, share it, and subscribe. We do these 3 days a week, and I try to keep you informed. It helps me out as well because, you know, with my whopping 41 subscribers, you can't share much revenue like that. But anyway, we are 100% listener supported. Also, if you miss a live broadcast, it'll be replayed 12 hours after the live airing time on the L&M Radio Network and TalkStream Live. And of course, we archive our shows at YouTube, username What's Out There. We're coming to you live right now today at 11:30 a.m. on the East Coast, April 24th. And we're at LateNightInTheMidlands.com, LNMRadioNetwork.com, and 101.7 WCET, Columbia Talk. Now, where was I before I took a break here? Actually, I was talking about the reason why people get visited and ask questions, and we are standing up and taking our, like other people have said, we're taking our country back or something like that. I mean, here's, I'm going to jump into this for a minute. California wants to divide into 3 states. I think is wonderful. North California, South Carolina, and New California, or North and South Carolina. I don't know. Anyway, they want to divvy it up, make it 3 different states because, well, there's just a lot of mass there. I mean, what is it? The 3rd or 4th largest economy on the planet, so they really ought to do something with it, and especially as politically diverse as they are. And I say politically diverse. California, AB, Senate, or bill. How about, we'll just say bill. AB 2943 was passed by California Assembly today and moves to the Senate. AB 2943 makes it illegal to direct someone to the Bible for help with gender confusion and homosexuality. It would become a crime to distribute, offer, or sell resources, books, counseling services that are Bible-based. Christian churches, Christian bookstores, and schools, pastors, and friends would be silenced and unable to appeal the decision. And of course, me being the wise guy, next they'll ban science, but I think they're ahead of me on that one. I think they've already gone ahead and banned some parts of science already. So maybe that was just a senseless comment that I made. Something else, geoengineering, the what we so fondly call chemtrails, geoengineering, or what do they call it? Atmospheric manipulation or whatever. We thought it stopped, but no, we're seeing it is back in full force. And I'm not sure exactly how that's going to turn out, but we need to stop that stuff. It's already been, we're finding the aluminum and barium and strontium in the water supply. We're finding it on the ground, and these minute particles of aluminum, they're nanoparticles, and they're flammable. They burn like crazy. This stuff just, it's just nuts. And that could be what helped attribute to all those fires in California. But although, many attributed those to direct energy weapons and stuff like that, I don't know. I believe half of what you see and none of what you hear, right? Which is why I ask people to check this stuff out. It's not my intent to instill fear in anyone, okay? It's not the idea. My thing is to be calm, remain calm, and remain secure in your facts, okay? In the facts that you know that's being truth. And there's no need to harshly or vigorously defend truth. I mean, the truth is what it is. You lay it out and you say, okay, that's it. And I mean, what can they say? Kanye West decided he is on the Trump train for some reason. This weekend, he professed his love for President Trump and complained that, let me stop that stuff. He complained that he couldn't get anything done with former President Obama, according to a radio show host who interviewed him. The interview with Hot 97 host Ebro Darden came after West expressed his unexpected support for conservative activist and Black Lives Matter critic Candace Owens on Twitter. He said, I love the way Candace Owens thinks. I like her too. I watched her video there. But anyway, He posted a lengthy string of pseudo-philosophical one-liners and platitudes, including, all you have to do is be yourself, and images are limitless and words aren't. Okay. See, Candace is great because she doesn't put herself in the victimhood mentality. Okay. She's, according to Darden, who's the radio show host here, who recounted his conversation with the famed rapper on Monday's Ebro in the Morning broadcast, West said he likes Owens because she's challenging conventional black thought. He also expressed love for Trump, Darden said, explaining that he had reached out to Obama for years and couldn't get anything done. But Trump gave me a meeting. Obama famously called West a jackass during taping an interview, and reportedly doubled down on that epithet later. West said, I do love Donald Trump. The rapper reportedly told Darden his goal was to deprogram people, according to Vulture. Awesome. That's wonderful. He challenged the mob, Gutfeld said. Greg Gutfeld from Fox News. Their goal is to stigmatize. Smears always shut down debate. There's nothing scarier to a leftist than a free thinker. And that's the thing. Common sense is the enemy of the tyrant. And we need to apply common sense. There's not much of that anymore. We need to, I don't know, we're leaning too much on others to fend for us, to help us. Anything that requires a service from someone else is not a right. So remember that. You don't have the right to health. You don't have the right to health care. You don't have the right to the service of other people. That's enslaving someone else. The rights that you have are the things that you can do for yourself. It's wonderful. No one's going to help you. I'm pushing 60. Believe me, I know. No one is going to help you. No one helped me. If you have someone to help you out, it's wonderful, awesome, it's great, it's wonderful, and you have that. You can depend on that. I never had that. I've got me. Okay, the only guy I could ever depend on. I looked in the mirror and I say, I know where you're at, and I know I can count on you. Never in my life have I ever been able to depend on anyone at all, even when it was pre-planned. It's just never happened. So that's just my experience with life here. Is pretty much it. I'm kind of running out of material here. I'm going to have to dig up more stuff. But anyway, common sense. Oh, listen, if you've got a problem with legislature and something is going through the legislative process and you don't know who to contact, this is a direct Washington number. You can call here all year long. Even if you don't know the district or the state or anything that you live in, you can get a message through. And if you have your pens and stuff ready, it doesn't matter. You can always do the replay on this on YouTube if you bookmark it or save it for later. But that number is 800-562-6000. That's 800-562-6000. And that's where, if you've got any kind of legislature that, or any governmental legislature that you think you might have a problem with, you might want to contact them. And that's anything at all. I mean, rattle their cages. You just be careful, though, okay? Because you clearly want to be within your constitutional limits, all right? I mean, we can run around and we can say this, that, and the other, but if just make sure it's constitutional. Make sure that what you're doing removes the burden from somebody else. Okay. Now, I watched another video and someone asked, how do you reconcile with your voting? You know, and myself, I'm not a part of it. so I really shouldn't say anything on it, but I'll give an opinion. By the way, everything I tell you here is all opinion anyway, so none of it's I mean, the facts I lay out and the things I ask you to research or inform you or give you the information to so you can research on your own. That's up to you, believe me. But for the most part, my views are my opinions, and they're not shared by the network. Or they may or may not be, but the network is not responsible for my speech and what I say and my content. They are their own network, and they provide an outlet for me, and I thank them for that from the bottom of my heart, deeply. Something is going to come down because there's a lot of information that's coming out. People were mad about Mueller because Mueller seemed to be milking this whole investigation of Fire Mueller. Everybody was in a big uproar. And I have to remind people that this is a chess game, that things happen for a reason. And the reason is that Mueller dragged this out to the statute of limitations. Okay? And almost to the statute of limitations. When it got just before the point, that's when the Democrats said, okay, we're reaching it, and Mueller is milking this, the Russia cow. And we're not going to have the information we need in time. We have to do something before the statute of limitations runs out. What should we do? Bam. Lawsuit. So they file a lawsuit against WikiLeaks and Russia, and for rigging the 2016 elections. Well, there's only one problem with that, because these people are going to start requesting information. And when they start requesting information, now you're going to have to remember those servers they didn't want to turn in for investigation and all? Yeah, they're going to have to turn those over. And I mean, when you start making accusations like that, you'd best have a lot of information. But the thing is, they opened up a big can of worms, because when the information actually starts to come out, it's not going to be what they want to see. It's not going to be at all. And see, the thing is, everybody believes, I mean, if you look at it yourself, there's a double standard, right? You've got one standard for the Clintons and another standard for everybody else. And I've heard this from, I can't tell you how many outlets. There's a different standard. And then you've got General Flynn, okay? General Flynn was set up, it was perjury. And actually, he's even been let off from that now. He was even, they said that didn't happen either. So with General Flynn, now you've got the McCabe thing, okay? And it's like, well, they're going to set him up. They're going to try to let him go, or somebody's going to have to go somehow. We'll take him in. Set him up like you did Flynn in one time. And that's the thing. It's like, it depends on who you are. And I played this audio last week from Judge Napolitano, and it doesn't matter if you're right or wrong. The government will try you until they get the verdict that they want. And, they're doing it using your money. You're paying them to do that. Why would you pay, or why would you allow your tax money to set you up for a fall, to pay for the very people that are suing you? If in fact, well, not that they ever would, but given the circumstances, that is the way it turns out. You're paying for them to put you in jail, basically. I ask that everyone do the research. Find out who you are. This is way past most people that I know of, but this name that you have, this name is not you. It's yours. It's something you own. It belongs to you. It's your property. Your name is your property. And when they ask you if you are so-and-so, is that you? No, it's not me. It's something that belongs to me. It's mine. I am a being inside this bodily vessel. The name that they call me is what they use to get my attention, and it's also used for legal and commercial purposes. Okay? So if it's not on paper, I mean, in most places, oral contracts are binding. You have to be careful of that too, because if an oral... What about invisible contracts? What does it take to bind yourself into a contract that might be invisible, that you're not aware of? Am I bound to a contract if I answer a question? I mean, just one question. If I answer one question, has that locked me into an invisible contract that I don't know about because of the fact that I did volunteer some sort of information? Yes, that is the case. I would recommend that anybody who wants to know anything about invisible contracts to search that in Google, invisible contracts. The man's name, I forget, is George Grenier, I believe, is the man's name, but it's called Invisible Contracts. The man's last name is Grenier. And I would implore people to read that, because there's a lot of information in there that is really vital. It's necessary. There's a whole deal in there where a man goes through a tax defense situation. It's a lengthy book, but the thing is, this book will show you the mistakes that are made too, so that you're not going to make the same mistakes in the future. It's a great book. I mean, I didn't write it myself. I don't write books. My attention span doesn't last that long. I don't know why. But be careful of invisible contracts, because all you have to, it's like when you get pulled over. Once you hand them your driver's license, if you do it without any kind of protest at all, or any conditions, with no conditions, you've locked yourself into invisible contracts. It's done. And the thing is, once you've done it, how do you get out? It's really tough, you know? And in most cases, they hold you to that, because this is it's what they call a positive contract. You put together it's like what the credit card companies like to do to you. When they decide they're going to raise your rates, they say, okay, well, our policy has changed. We're giving you a 15 or a 30-day notice to notify you that our policy is changing. You have that amount of time to respond and either agree or disagree with their policy changes, and give them the option to either keep you or remove you based on your protest of the changes. Give them the same amount of time back, 15, 30 days, whatever, okay? If you don't respond to them, the changes go, no problem, you didn't argue, you didn't fight with it. If you put in a notice to protest the changes and ask them to respond, and they didn't respond, now it's the same on them. It's like, well, I sent you the notice, you didn't respond, which means you accepted my terms, and now you're under my terms and not yours. If they were thoughtful enough, or if they cared enough, they would have found that letter, they would have taken it and said, well, no, we don't agree to that, and then send you a notice back that says, well, no, we don't agree to that, we're going to go ahead and terminate the contract if you don't agree to our terms. Most cases, like everybody else who gets those notices, you don't respond to them. You, okay, thank you for letting me know, and it happens. You don't protest it. After that, I mean, it just happens. But if you do respond and you send it back, get all the pertinent information, make sure everything is appropriately documented, of course, then you're well within your legal rights. It's what they call a positive contract. It's where they they have to perform, and if they don't perform, then these are the consequences for not. It's the same thing we teach our children, okay? Don't do that, because if you do that, this is what will happen. Okay, it's action and reaction, right? Okay, and this is how parents teach their children. If you do that, then I'm going to do this. Well, if they do it, and it happens to the child, and the child asks, why did that happen? I said, well, you knew it was going to happen. You were told it was going to happen. That's how that happened, and why that happened. It's the hardest part about people, is making them understand that there are consequences to what they do, and they need to accept them before they do those things. That's all. Or think about it before they even do it. People, you gotta love them. Anyway, you're listening to Late Night in the Midlands, LNMRadioNetwork.com, LateNightInTheMidlands.com. 101.7 WCET Columbia Talk. Also on what's out there and on YouTube. Please click on that subscribe button, like, share, if you would, please. I deeply appreciate it. And it would be my honor to bring the news to you. Alternative news. You're not going to hear this stuff out in the open air. It doesn't happen. Mainstream is paid off media, and according to, remember, if I told you this morning, I mean, it all stems from this one document, which is the Operation Vigilant Eagle. If you would, please take a look at that. It's the takeover of the U.S., and then that is the bottom line. There has been a takeover of the U.S. It was going on for 8 years that Obama was in. Trump is in there to stop it, to restore the republic. Now, we need to remember what a republic is, exactly what it is we've had, what it is we've lost over the past 100 years, okay, because it has been 100 years. And we need to act, but we need to act peacefully. We're not, remember, this is evil, good and evil, okay? And evil begets evil. And even the good book says that he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. So remember, if you're going to be in combat, Mortal Kombat or anything like that, then expect to die, okay? And remember, this planet, this government that you've got here, you're leaving this to your children and your grandchildren and their children and grandchildren and so on, okay? What kind of future should they have? What do you want? How do you want to see them? Do you want to see them on top of the pile cracking whips on a whole bunch of, insignificance? Or do you think maybe they might get wrapped up in that little batch that we call insignificant? It's quite the dilemma. Remember, you're handing this to your families to come. I'm Papa Bear, and that's what's out there.
Well, we need to know a couple of things. Number one, we need to know how the world's premier law enforcement agency managed to lose 5 months' worth of text. And what's also troubling is in the text we do have, they're discussing how to avoid text being captured and secured. So what's missing is important, but also what's there is important. It is manifest bias, not just against Trump, but against his kids, against his business interests. There's a text where they hope the Trump hotel fails. That is a level of bias that you rarely see and you never see from law enforcement officers. What's also troubling to me is this text that Johnny Ratcliffe found last night about this secret society. Now, I have no clue what that means because that was not the phraseology I used, but it's the day after the election, and it's the same two people that were discussing a little bit later in the text the damage they had done with the Clinton investigation and how they could, quote, fix it and make it right.
What's out there?